Hello, and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me as always is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
There's a lot of games out right now, and some new hardware, so we're going to get into that, but I feel like I should give you a little bit of a moment to give us your thoughts on Hollow Knight, because you have finished it.
It's true. I sent you a Snapchat when I did complete it. It's possible to complete that game, the final completion to be 112% with all the DLC they added and whatnot. But as far as I can tell, you have to be an insane person to do that. So I did as much as I could, and I ended it with 101%. But I got every charm. I got almost every health and magic upgrade. Getting every charm, though, it has some hidden benefits that are great. I didn't do the final. There's like a gladiator arena. There's 3 stages to it. I did the first 2, but the third one I was just not going to deal with because it was too difficult. But I did get the good ending. I believe I get the canonical ending. Dream No More is what they call it.
Have you watched the other endings?
I did not, because I think they're all depressing, I'm pretty sure. No. But it was very, very good. It really captured my mind for the entire time I was playing it. When I wasn't playing it, I was like looking stuff up about like, oh, this is an interesting thing I saw. I wonder how I do this, or I wonder how I get this, or does this exist in the game? But yeah, overall, I would say it's like a 10 out of 10. I would say maybe like a 9.9 out of 10. I did a little bit of the DLC. There's this Grim Troop DLC that came out for it, which I think is not super good and kind of a misstep. It kind of just adds a bunch of like weird carnival people to the game, and I don't believe it adds a lot to the lore. I think they could have done something more interesting. But other than that, that's like the one blemish on it, is I'm not super into the DLC. Other than that, it's a perfect gaming experience that I loved, and it introduced me to I guess Metroid Dread introduced me to the whole genre of Metroidvanias, but it further cemented that this is something I now enjoy, and I can't say enough good things about it. Highly recommend Hollow Knight, and I believe it is on sale right now on Steam for like $7, so it's like impossible.
Oh, nice.
It's like there's no reason you shouldn't buy it. It's so good. I think I got like 36 or 37 hours out of it. So it's super good bang for your buck.
Yeah, I do own it on Steam. It's one of those games that, especially since you've been talking about it so much, I've been thinking about jumping back into. And it may be a thing I jump back into once I get the Steam Deck, which is one of the things that came out this week. We were talking about, or you and I were texting a little bit back and forth because had watched the MinMax show, and they brought it up that Horizon, like Guerrilla Games, I think is the developer of Horizon, they can't really catch a break when it comes to releasing games in this franchise, because of course in 2017 when they released Horizon Zero Dawn, like a week later the Switch came out, and along with it Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is like this 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Everybody loves it. It's like a genre redefining moment, and like a game of the generation type of a game. And so everybody forgot that Horizon existed to an extent, and then like years later now they've launched Horizon Forbidden West, and a week later the Steam Deck comes out, and along with it Elden Ring, and another open world game that is sort of redefining the series that's so beloved. And so can't really catch a break, but
not great timing on their part.
Yeah, well, we were all joking before, like, oh man, what's going to happen? Is Breath of the Wild 2 going to come out and be a repeat of when the first one came out, and sort of came out a week after Horizon Zero Dawn and kind of stole the limelight from it? But it wasn't the sequel to Breath of the Wild, it was Elden Ring. So,
well, speaking of those two things, should we talk about either of them up top? There's a lot of Steam Deck news and a lot of Elden Ring news.
Yeah, let's get into that stuff because it turns out that the Steam Deck is sort of out in the wild now. So you can go on YouTube or just anywhere on the internet and pretty much find somebody who's doing a review or an unboxing or some sort of impressions on the Steam Deck, which is very exciting. Have you gotten a chance to look into any of that?
I have. I saw a funny tweet. I don't remember who did it. Some tech journalist that I follow on Twitter was like, Valve doesn't have a battle royale game, like a Valve battle royale game, but they did give 100 journalists Steam Decks and lift the embargo, and now there are 100 reviews out at the exact same time, which I thought was funny. But I have looked at a couple of them. I believe the general thesis statement is that it's very exciting, very good, but just a little bit not there yet, to the point where even during the review processes, like, it's rapidly changing, like, day to day. Like, they're sending out updates every day. It's still just a little bit janky, but and I believe there's only like a couple hundred games that are currently like Steam approved, Valve approved, of the like thousands and thousands of games on Steam. But overall, like, extremely positive impressions, with just that little caveat of you might want to wait a little bit.
Yeah, they actually have a website now that you can log in with your Steam profile and see which games in your library are like approved versus which ones are will
That's
work,
cool.
but you might have to like do a little bit of work around to get them.
Because there's two levels, right? There's like the green badge, which is like, this is definitely going to work on Steam Deck, and then there's like a yellow one with like an exclamation point that says like it's been tested but it's not fully there yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the actual wording that they chose. I think I have it in a tab somewhere if I can find it, but yeah, they're basically saying that you can check that website. You might have to wait a little while for like some games to be technically approved, but they've been like sort of adding to that list fairly rapidly. Kind of like you said, I was watching a video where somebody was talking about the Steam Deck, and they were like, I've had this for maybe less than 24 hours and I've already gotten like 7 emails about just like updates that their Steam has rolled out for this thing and what they're changing and adding. So
everything I've seen makes me want it even more. And I was thinking about it today. Like, I was stressing out about like, oh, do I have to build a new computer to play Starfield when it comes out? Because I don't think I'm gonna buy an Xbox, even though I did have that wonderful dream where I bought one. And then I realized, like, I wonder if they'll just make it playable on Steam Deck. That's a great excuse to get a Steam Deck, is to just play Starfield.
That's what I was going to say. Because you can just plug it into a dock. They also unveiled their official Steam Deck dock that's coming later, but you can use just whatever dock you've got. And yeah, you could just plug it into a computer and still use it with a mouse and keyboard if that's the route you want to go, or you can use a controller, or you can just play it portably. And
it would allow me to live my dream of using a mouse and keyboard on my TV.
Oh yeah, that's true. You could definitely do that as well. That's
Very
something
easily.
I definitely wish that Sony and Microsoft would embrace with their consoles, is like making it so that mouse and keyboard support was more ubiquitous with Xbox and PlayStation games, but they're not there yet. But you can do that with a Steam Deck.
Out of the box.
They did say, I think battery life is one of the things that's sort of a downside to it. You've got a decent amount of battery life if you limit it to 30 frames a second. But the example I saw was Control running at 60 frames a second. You'd get like an hour and a half of battery life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of those things that like in a year or two when they release Steam Deck 2.0, it'll have more battery life and you'll be like, oh, should I upgrade? But no.
Now, an interesting thing that I think I was watching the IGN review of the hardware, and I guess, so right now you can pretty much only run Steam OS on it, or there's like a couple. You can load Windows onto it, but Windows doesn't have the graphics drivers for the Steam Deck. So those are coming. They're the Windows 11 Steam Deck specific NVIDIA whatever graphics drivers are on the way. But currently, the only way to play games is to have it loaded with Steam OS. You can load Windows onto it and download games, but they just won't run because like it doesn't understand what it is. But people are heavily anticipating when Windows 11 comes out, and then they're just gonna, I guess, load Windows 11 onto their Steam Decks, and it will heavily increase the number of games that are acceptable, I think. But
and you should be able to do that by putting Windows 11 on an SD card, and then when you launch it, or when you start up the Steam Deck, you just choose which sort of partition you want to go into, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to get rid of Steam OS in order to put Windows 11 on there.
I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah. So there's that. Another thing they said is you can bring up like a Google browser, so like streaming stuff from Stadia and GeForce Now you should be able to do on the Steam Deck. That's cool. I think the note I saw about that was that they're not recognizing the controller input just yet, so you might have to play it with a mouse and keyboard if you want to do that.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's there, and I'm sure that that's something that will get added eventually.
Oh yeah.
And one of the videos I was watching, they were playing like Stardew Valley, and they also had like a Chrome tab open, and they were like listening to like a podcast in YouTube in that, and they were just able to like have that audio playing while they were playing Stardew Valley, and they were able to sort of hit the Steam button and quick swap back and forth between the game and the browser tab, which is pretty cool.
That's like, it's so that's my use case for it. Like the main thing I love about it is that it is that dockable computer that can just be, it could just be your main driver. Like it could be, you could install Windows on it and it just is your computer, which I think is very cool. You could take it with you when you travel and it's your entire computer. Yeah,
it's like your laptop, but
it's like a better version of a laptop.
I mean, maybe not a better version of a laptop because there's no keyboard with it, but
yeah.
I mean, there's a virtual one, I guess, but yeah, very cool in terms of what it brings to the table for a gaming device, but also being able to use it as like a computing device if you need it to be, which is something that the Switch does not do.
True.
Also, the attached controllers, like the Switch does have these like third-party sort of beefier pro style controllers that you can get that make it bigger, and they're a little bit more friendly to bigger hands, I would say. And the Steam Deck's like controller attachments, I guess they're not attachments, it's like part of the console, but those seem much better to hold on to and play for a long period of time than the Switch's little Joy-Cons, so that's pretty cool. Another interesting note that I saw is Valve had said that it does not plan on, I think IGN reported that Valve said they were not going to make their own take on Game Pass, but they would like to help Microsoft put Game Pass on Steam so that you could then access all the Game Pass games on the Steam Deck.
That would be cool.
Just through Steam, which would be awesome. So I hope they do that. Another Microsoft thing that will help the Steam Deck as well is Bethesda's retiring its PC game launcher and just moving everything over to Steam in April. And so you'll be able to, I guess, claim all the games that you own through Bethesda's launcher in Steam, which is a good thing. I think I own a couple of games through the Bethesda launcher, and it's not great, so it would be much better to have them through Steam. And I do wonder if, like, I believe when I got ESO, I got it through Steam, and when I tried to launch it, it had to launch like the Bethesda launcher or something else, like ridiculous. I hope it like they're able to remove that part of it. So that's all good news. I think that's great. And what else did we have about the Steam Deck?
It's good.
It's good. It looks very cool. I'm not really that sad that I have to wait till Q2 because, like you said, there's so much like bugs and like updates that are happening as they're just sort of like, it seems like it's still in beta a little bit, and hopefully by the time I get my shot at it in Q2, a lot of that stuff will have been ironed out. So. But speaking of the Steam Deck and big games out, Elden Ring should work on the Steam Deck. But Elden Ring has experienced issues on PC and PS5, evidently. So I have held off on this game. I don't know if you want to jump right into Elden Ring. Because you've been playing it.
I have never played a Dark Souls game. I very briefly tried to play Dark Souls 1. My brother tried to get me into it because he said it's a masterpiece. And it does seem like a very cool game, but it did not click with me. I almost bought Sekiro a bunch of times just because it looked super fun. And I watched a pretty long playthrough of a lot of the game. And I'm glad I didn't get it because it seems like it really ramps up in difficulty towards the end.
Yeah.
But this game, Elden Ring, is so heavily hyped up and lauded. Like, everywhere I'm looking, like, my Twitter is just like, Elden Ring is the best. Like, this is a masterpiece. Like, I can't believe I'm playing this. And then I watched that Mid-Max podcast on Thursday, and they were all just like, yeah, this is amazing. It's so good. It's like, generationally, it's such a leap or whatever. So I was like, I'll check it out. And it has not super clicked for me yet, unfortunately. It does very much feel like a Dark Souls game.
One of the guys on the Min-Max show said they were not sure that this would be the one, despite how like hyped everyone is and how everybody is praising it as this like 10 out of 10 perfect masterpiece that everybody loves and it's the best game ever. But they're still saying that I don't think it's going to like change people's opinion if they've not been into the series in the past. And so I think that's been partly why I've held off a little bit. I mean, obviously I'm knee deep in Horizon Forbidden West, but
right.
I've been unsure if Elden Ring, despite all the love, if it's going to be the one to convince me that finally this is a series for me.
I get it. Like, I'm playing it, and I understand that it, like, various parts of it are super impressive and cool, but I don't know. Like, the combat is just like, I can't parse the combat yet, and maybe it's just a thing where I haven't played it enough. I've only played for like maybe 2.5 hours. It's just it doesn't feel good. Like a thing I am riding this high off of Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight is so well made because, similar to Metroid Dread, you're progressing and you're constantly getting things that make you feel stronger and better. And by the end of it, if I had to traverse the map, I wouldn't even fast travel. I would just like go, because I knew the map and I knew how to kill every specific enemy. Every enemy has like a different thing you need to do as far as like timing and like method of killing them. And it was great. And I played for 2.5 hours of Elden Ring, and maybe I need to look up a guide, but I never got to the point where I could level up. And I realize now what I did wrong, but I was just sort of wandering around, and then I would find someone and we would fight, and I would use all of my like Estus flasks or whatever they're called now. And then I would like sit at one of those campfires or whatever they're called now, like places of grace or whatever. And then, rinse and repeat. And I did not feel I was making any progress, and it was not getting any easier. Like I think that I need that progression. I need to like find a new skill or a new item that helps me become stronger. And I found like a flail, and I did not have enough dexterity to use it. But I don't know, man. It's just, you're very slow. You feel it feels like everything can kill you, which I get the appeal of, but I want that power fantasy. Like I don't play games to be like in peril. I
Yeah.
play them so that I can feel strong and feel like I'm adapting and learning and getting more powerful in this world. And again, maybe I need to play more. I've only played like 2.5 hours, but right now, it's just a chore. Like I know that I am going to go play more of it today, but I am not looking forward to it. And maybe it will be a thing where I get over a hump and I start to understand it. The combat becomes easier for me to understand, but at the moment, I'm not super into it, I have to say.
Now, I know there is like an NPC you have to find that gives you access to the like horse that you can summon.
Yes, I believe that happens. So the thing that I messed up, I think, is I did not discover a third grace site or whatever. I only did 2, and then I just sort of wandered around in this cave. And I believe once you do 3, that's when this lady comes out and gives you a horse and like a bell.
Okay, and I think maybe like some of the progression elements are tied to like she'll also make it so that you can like level up at the fires. Maybe that is something you haven't done before.
No, it is not. And I think that is my next course of action is to attempt to light that third bonfire. I've tried to twice, and then I just gave up last night because it was too much of a chore. But I'm gonna, I guess, take it easy and try to be stealthy about it.
What class are you playing?
So I started as a vagabond because that was the one everybody recommended as like, oh, if you've never played a Souls game, this is a pretty well rounded. You can go wherever you like, and you can adapt to whatever play style. And that was fine, but I realized I wanted to play with magic. And I guess to use magic, you need to have a staff, and those are very hard to come by, at least in the early game. So I decided to dump that character and play as a prisoner, because they are well-rounded, but they also start with a staff. And that was fun. The starting spell is a little bit annoying because it takes so long to wind up. But I think I'm going to stick with this. I contemplated wiping this character and going with someone fully melee because I didn't know if magic was going to be my thing, but I don't know. Maybe I do just need to like really push through the first like 3 or 4 hours, and then it will really open up to me. But currently it's not like it's not like my new obsession like Hollow Knight was. Like I was very much hoping it was going to be something where I couldn't stop playing it, and then when I stopped playing it, I would like lay in bed and look in my phone and just like look at the wiki for it, which is what I did with Hollow Knight. I was just like constantly like, well, what does this do, and how do I upgrade this, and things like that. And it is not that. When I'm not playing it, I very much don't want to think about it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I have my own similar concerns. Like, I wonder if I have the patience for it because, like you said, the movement is very slow and, like, attacks are kind of slow.
Yeah.
And especially coming off of Horizon Forbidden West, where, like, you can run basically down a hill and hit the crouch button and you'll slide for, like, a football field length of ground, and then you'll be able to jump and, like, you can do all this stuff. So I have my concerns about trying to get into Elden Ring. I think if I were to play it, I would probably try playing as the samurai just because it seems kind of cool to me.
That was the thing I was maybe going to dump the prisoner for that as my third run, but because it looks really cool and you can two-hand that sword and do a lot of damage, which I think is what I want, but I'm hesitant to go full melee because I feel like I don't want to be rolling all the time. I'd rather just be from a distance trying to kill people, which is what magic is for.
Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the samurai, because he also has a bow and arrow. So I was like, well, I could use that from a distance and maybe keep my distance on some of them. And then when they get close, of course, I have all the armor and the melee abilities with that class. So that was my thought, but I don't know anything about it because I haven't played it yet. But it seems like vaguely similar. Like when I played Monster Hunter, it was like a slow ramp up to really get into that game because the difficulty of it is the monsters you're hunting are very large, they move very fast, and you always feel like you're underwater moving a little slow. And so, especially depending on the type of weapon you've chosen to use. And so you have this big old monster like running circles around you and like hitting you for almost all of your health with every hit. And you're just like, all right, I gotta like time this hit just right to even land it on him. And who knows how much damage that's gonna do. And so that's been my sort of like thinking of how some of these From games look to me is like you're moving slow and everything you that wants to attack you is capable of moving much faster and hitting much harder.
Yes.
And so like there's an element of frustration with that, and I don't know if that's an element in games that I like yet, but I will say with Monster Hunter World, I eventually kind of rounded that corner and got really into it and actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I still like it was a struggle and annoying at times because of course you move very slow, so every single action you want to take in like a Monster Hunter game, like say you need to sharpen your sword, or say you need to take like a health flask or potion or something, there's like a really long drawn out slow animation for it, and you're like, okay, you're gonna have to speed this up because he's charging at me right now. Like and so that kind of element is something that annoys me about those games, and it's possible for me if I really like devote some time to it to get sort of over that hump a little bit and get into it. I was not able to do the same with Monster Hunter Rise, which came out last year, but that's my concern when it comes to Elden Ring, is that I'm gonna feel that again, where it's like I'm maybe move too slow and everybody else moves too fast and hits too hard, and I'll eventually get to a point where I've like fought this boss for like 45 minutes and gotten whittled his health down, but then I made one mistake and he like one-shot me and I have to do the whole thing over again. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that like will frustrate me, and I will eventually fall off of a game like that. And so that's why I've been a little hesitant to jump in. But
I was similar to you, and Metroid Dread kind of broke me of that because its boss battles were so good, so well designed, that I would play them like 2 or 3 times in a row. And by the third time, I understood. Like, even the first time, I learned a valuable lesson, and I was able to persevere. Similarly, Hollow Knight, there were some bosses that were extremely difficult, and I was like, maybe I should just bounce off of this. But I stuck with it, and it was very satisfying and fulfilling, especially that final boss. If you get the true, like the canonical, what I believe to be the canonical ending, you basically have to fight 2 bosses back to back. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I eventually did. And so, like, riding the high off of that, I was like, well, maybe a Dark Souls style game is for me. Maybe it will be something where I enjoy slowly getting better and better at a battle and then completing it. But
yeah, and I'll say I like what I've heard about it in terms of like, well, if you go this one direction and you start finding enemies that are too strong for you, you can always just go back the other direction and fight some other enemies, and that'll maybe help you level up or get some new gear that you can then go back to that previous area, and you'll stand a better chance at getting through it, as opposed to like previous Soulsborne games where they're much more linear. And so if you happen upon a boss that you can't seem to get through, like you just have to, bang your head against it until you eventually beat it. So that's one of the things that makes me think, well, maybe I could get into it. But I think it's like one of those things where I have to like find the right mindset for it, where I have to like break myself of the whole, if I don't, succeed within the first like handful of tries, like I need to like force myself to not get angry and frustrated over it. I need to just be like, okay, this is going to happen. You're going to have to deal with it. Just like, it's okay if you fail, and just try it one more time, So it's a question of whether I can do that or not.
Yeah, like the main thing that made me really want to try this is all the Breath of the Wild comparisons. And so far, again, I'm only 2.5 hours in, I don't super feel that. Exploration has not super been rewarded for me because it's mostly just been, oh, here's a cave. Oh, now I'm dead. Like there's a bunch of wolves in this cave. Or like here's an interesting ruins. Well, there's a bunch of high level knights in these ruins. So like maybe there is something you can acquire there, but you got to work for it. And I don't know, man. I acknowledge that this is a very good game, and I maybe just like you said, like maybe I have to be in the right mindset for it. But I am gonna continue to try to play it, and hopefully by the end of today, I will have changed my own mind. But
I do wonder if it'll be like, for me last year it was what was that game? Resident Evil Village, where I was like, this is a genre that's not really for me, but everybody loves it. And so I'm like, I need to figure out what it's all about. Like, why do people love this? And I got into it and I played it for, I don't know, probably like 6-7 hours maybe. And I got through like the castle section and I was like, okay, this feels like enough. Like, I get it. I understand it, but I'm not compelled to play any more of it. Like, I don't think I need to play more of this game. I don't really find myself particularly enjoying it, but I can say definitively that I can understand why a certain type of gamer would really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so maybe it will just be that thing for me of trying to satisfy that curiosity and try to understand why, because like we talked about, like people are calling it best game ever made, 10 out of 10. People love it. And some of me, like, there's always a part of me that wonders, like, really, like, why this one? Like, what is it about this that's doing it for all these people and making them love it? Like, there's a part of me that's very hesitant to acknowledge that or like give them credit, because part of me is like why why would this be the one that does it? Because there are so many other games that I think are great that don't get this sort of level of hype and love. And it just...
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think this is going to be the game of the year? Because we have yet to see... I mean, Starfield is going to come out this year. When are the Game Awards? Because Starfield's going to come out, I think, on 11/11, right?
Yeah. Well, if it holds to its expected release date, yes.
The Game Awards are always in December, so much like the Oscars, all of the like hot movies come out in like November, December, because that's when people are like, oh, we should talk about like movies of the year. Do you think there is a world where Starfield unseats Elden Ring as the game of the year?
I mean,
is there anything else on the horizon?
I guess Horizon, maybe God of War or like the sequel to Breath of the Wild 2. If either one of those games manages to make it this year, potentially. But I feel like for that type of player that's like really into the Soulsborne thing, like there's no unseating it. Like it doesn't matter how good Starfield is, like it will never unseat, because that's not what they're looking for. You know what I mean? Like. Mm-hmm. They love that genre for some reason, and they're like, so I don't know. I kind of like, for me, I feel like Starfield will 100% unseat whatever level of interest I end up getting into Elden Ring if I should play it. But it's more my style. If it does come out on 11/11. If it comes out on 11/11, it is going to be top of mind when... Yeah, I mean, recency bias is a thing. Like, that's a good point. But...
I don't know. I am a little... I'm not disappointed because I went into it, like, very warily. Like, oh, I wonder if... I don't know if this is for me. And I am mostly just... I guess I'm the same way I was.
I mean, maybe I'm just a bad... gamer, but like another element of it that has me a little bit hesitant is there is no quest log, as far as I know, in the game. And so you'll meet like NPCs, you'll meet like a merchant or somebody who has like a side quest for you or something like that. And you just have to like journal it, like keep a journal by your side and write it down to remember. Or there are like, you can pull up the map and like put a little icon of some sort there to try to help yourself remember. But like I will 100% forget about all of that stuff and like where they are and all of that. Horizon Forbidden West, at the very beginning of the game, like when I was just starting it, asked me, do you want a minimal HUD or do you want like quest icons and like waypoints and stuff? And I was like, of course I want the quest icons and waypoints. Like, I'm not a masochist. I don't need to make stuff harder on myself just for the sake of it. I'm not one of those people that's like, I don't want a HUD, it breaks my immersion. Like, I'm not that person. So I don't know. I feel like maybe I
want a HUD in real life.
I would love a HUD in real life. If smart glasses become a thing, I'll get some. But
eventually they will.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the right gamer for this game. So I feel like Elden Ring will appeal to the person that would have chosen no HUD, don't give me, quest icons, just nothing, and let me explore and find my own way through this world. Whereas
also,
I'm very much, I want the more navigation elements.
They do make very cool looking enemies, but I don't know if I super like the aesthetic of Souls games. Like, just like classic knights and whatnot does not super appeal to me.
Yeah, that's something I've thought of too with past Soulsborne games, including this one, where everybody's like, "Oh, it's beautiful and amazing," and I've always thought, really, like it's all right, but I don't know that I've ever seen one of these games that I was like, "Oh, that's so aesthetically awesome that I need to play it." Like, I can agree their creature design is like off the charts, really amazing, like creepy, weird looking, like very creatively designed creatures. I can give them credit for that, but like maybe it's just because I'm playing Horizon Forbidden West and it's like maybe the most next gen game that I've seen yet.
Yeah.
To then go look at Elden Ring, and it's just like, it looks all right. I don't know.
It doesn't blow me away. It's not like I could walk around in Breath of the Wild and everything just looked beautiful. Like, that art style was amazing. I don't feel compelled at all to take screenshots of Elden Ring.
Well, and
probably the closest thing to it was like Bloodborne, I'd say, had a very like through line, interesting art design that I enjoyed looking at, just because like that weird gothic.
Yeah, I can see that one.
But other than that, like Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, it's just like a guy wearing a metal helmet with a long sword,
Yeah, and even their like run animation doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, not super impressive to me. But like,
I agree.
Ghost of Tsushima was another game that I was like, every new location I went to was just like, I need to take a screenshot of this and like get a printout of it and like frame it because it looks incredible. And some of that was just like the location and sort of that style. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too down on it before I've even played it. And I do think I will play it eventually. Like, I've got a birthday coming up and it's on my list, so I might end up getting it anyway. But also, like, another thing I wonder about as far as like those 10 out of 10 masterpiece reviews, when like very clearly it has issues on like PC and PS5. And like, sure, they can patch those out, and they've said that they're going to, or they're going to at least work on them. But it's one of those things that will be enough to ding a different game, but for some reason people overlook it. Like for some reason I find myself super skeptical whenever a game is given a 10 out of 10. And some of that is just like, is this just hype? Like, did reviewers go like, oh, this is a FromSoft game and people love this genre, so I need to give it a 10 out of 10 or find a way to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what they were talking about on the MinMax show. I forget, it was either that Kyle Hilliard or the Jacob Geller guy. One of them was like, every outlet had, like, it's come to a point where every outlet has the guy that reviews Soulsborne games. And so when something like this comes out, they give it to that guy who likes it. And to those guys, like you said, this is a 10 out of 10. Like, this is, the epitome of the genre. This is genre changing, bending even.
I guess that's how Madden and Call of Duty get like straight 8s every year.
Yeah,
but
exactly. They just give it to the same guy. And I mean, he's a good source because he has played the previous ones. He knows what's different and what's unique about this game that, From has changed. But it is like, a little bit preaching to the choir. You're giving it to someone who is probably definitely going to like it. And so obviously they're going to give it a 10. Like the average person is not probably going to give it a 10, but
yeah,
an aficionado, someone who's familiar with the lore of all the Dark Souls games is going to be like, this is amazing.
True. Does that hurt reviews in your mind then? Is that something that like you take a little less stock in reviews?
I mean, a lot of the times when I look for a review of a game, I'll try to find a review from a person that I think is similar to me. Like I watch this guy on Twitch play games that I think he has a lot of the same opinions that I have. He really liked Elden Ring, which was surprising to me. And again, maybe I just need to play it more. But I think when you search out reviews, you need to find someone that has similar mindset as you. Like if you're going to like Secret Sniper 47 on YouTube, who has like played all the Call of Duty games to say like, oh, I wonder if this new Call of Duty game is good. That's probably not going to be a super unbiased review. Like,
true.
he's very interested in like what guns are in this new game and whatnot.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing that it's got a lot of 10 out of 10s. It is a quality game that took a long time, I think, to... that one guy on the MinMax show was like, if they called it Dark Souls 4, they would have had to call it Dark Souls 4 and 5 because there's so much content in it.
Yeah.
And it does seem that way. Like, they definitely packed a lot into this. There's an insane amount of detail. And like you said, the character design is just out of this world. But... I don't know. It's not for me. It is, I believe, a wonderful piece of art that should be experienced. At least someone watching like a master clip of all the interesting designs of it and people playing it that are actually good at it. But I don't know if it's a must play.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you think you're definitely going to think it's a must play just from all the hype on the internet about it, but maybe that's not the case depending on
It's a must. I believe it's a must know about.
Right.
Well, I don't know if it's a must play.
It's hard not to know about it. It's one of those things where I have been tempted to play it way more than any other Soulsborne game just because it's like it's everywhere on the internet, like we talked about earlier. And so it's basically impossible not to be like seeing people hype this up as like the best game ever and everybody's playing it at the same time. And so part of me wants to be in on that conversation and on that sort of moment on the internet that it's having. I don't know why I feel compelled to have that. Like I was there too, but it's there. So I don't know. I will probably play it eventually and maybe, hopefully, I don't know if next week or the week after that, and then maybe we'll have more impressions on it, especially if you're able to put some more time into it. But
I'm going to try. My girlfriend is out of town this weekend, so I pretty much only have this to do. Like, I beat Hollow Knight. I don't have to worry about it anymore, and there's nothing really else I'm playing right now. There's nothing really else I'm really watching right now, so this is pretty much it. Like, I'm really going to give it my best to try to get into this. And if I can't do it this weekend, I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the game that I'm going to be doing that with this weekend is Horizon Forbidden West. I did not play Elden Ring, but I have put more time into Horizon Forbidden West. And I'm really liking it. Some of it is that it's, I know for a fact that it's easier to play than Elden Ring, and I can I was watching videos of people like talking about the different classes in Elden Ring, and I'm like, man, they all seem pretty slow. Check out Aloy just running and sliding around and jumping on horseback and riding across.
Do you have the paraglider yet?
I did, and so yeah, you can do that as well. There's definitely some elements that seem borrowed from Breath of the Wild. Like they don't have shrines, but you'll come across these sort of old world ruin type things. Like it'll be a house that looks like it's been like broken down and has like overgrowth all over it, but you kind of go into them and you'll use different pieces of gear that you've unlocked to be able to navigate it until you are able to grab like this artifact or something in it. And so that's sort of somewhat akin to like the shrines in Zelda, for instance. But it's just like a really good open world game. And we were talking about it before we started recording, and it has a lot in common with like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry in terms of its open world design, where you're doing stealth and you're like, you have these bandit camps that you can go clear out. And probably the best facial animations I've ever seen in a game. And some of the best like motion capture that I've seen. It's just incredible to look at. I think maybe I might still prefer Ghost of Tsushima just for the setting, but I do think Horizon Forbidden West, even more than something like Ratchet and Clank, for instance, last year, which was like the first of the big next-gen games that you're like, oh, this looks incredible. This is what the next gen is offering. That was like, an art. But Horizon is going more for like photorealism. And so that's when I feel like you can really see the difference. And I really like the combat. I like even the melee stuff, which I don't do a whole lot of because it seems like it's all about the bow mechanics. And the bow mechanics are really good. And like you can you can have multiple bow and arrow equipped and multiple different weapon types. Like they have like a launcher of some sort, so you can it's almost like a futuristic version of a slingshot sort of, and then they have like sort of a crossbow design type of a thing. So you have different elemental arrows as well, and so you have like a long range bow that you can use as well. And so you bring up this weapon wheel and you have all the different arrow types. Like if on this bow I've got freeze arrows and fire arrows, and on this bow I have shock and acid arrows. And so you'll go up to like a robot and you'll scan it with your focus, and you'll see, okay, he's weak to this type of element, so I'm going to use that. And so you can shoot off different parts of the animal, and then when you pick them up, you can use them for crafting, either like if you knock off, say, an acid canister from like one of the enemies, then you can equip or you can craft acid arrows. Or maybe I was telling you before we started recording, it's almost got a little bit of Monster Hunter in there as well, where you're like, okay, I need to upgrade my armor and my bows, but I need like a specific part from like one of the monsters. So I know I can pull up my map and see, okay, they're over here, so I'm going to go over there and I'm going to shoot off the parts I need and take out this robot animal thing, and I'm going to grab them and I'll be able to upgrade my stuff. And there's like a bunch of different skill trees. Like you have one for the melee stuff, you have one for the bow stuff, like the hunter one, which is the one I've put most of my points into so far. And then you have like one for your stealth tree as well. And I think there's others, like there's health potions and traps, I think is one of the other skill trees. And so you can get different abilities as well. It's really super polished in its mechanics and its controls. So like you pull up the weapon wheel and you're like, okay, I can like basically have everything I need here. I can like swap back and forth between the different special abilities that I've unlocked in my skill tree and use them. I can swap to the different arrows. I can just, point at the type of arrow that I need if I've used them all, and I can craft more of them. And yeah, it's a game that looks incredible and feels really good to play, is about all I can say about it. It's very good, I have to say. And I think I'm liking it more than Zero Dawn. Like, I think the story is interesting. I'm not sure where it's going just yet. You asked me how far I was in, and I'm not sure. I think I'm roughly around level 20. And I'm getting to the part where I'm like, okay, we're finally starting to really explore the West here. Like, we're exploring further west. And I think I've only done one tall neck so far. And that's sort of the Horizon version of, in Assassin's Creed, you climb those watchtowers or whatever, and you have the moment where the eagle flies around and it sort of removes the fog of war from your map, and then you jump down. It's that kind of thing, but they're like really big, like tall neck machine animals that just kind of walk around. And so you find them and figure out how to climb up to the top of them. And it's very cool. So I don't know. I'm into it. It's one of those games that I feel like will be forgotten by the end of the year, because you talked about will it be one of those things where come game of the year talk and game awards and top 10 lists, recency bias for stuff like Starfield and even to an extent the love for Elden Ring is definitely gonna make people forget a little bit about Forbidden West, which is a shame. Yeah,
it's unfortunate for that team, but almost certainly this is not. It will not win.
It's a shame. I would think. I think it's very good. It's a very well made game, and like the word of mouth has been good, the reviews have been good, and I'm sure the sales have been good. So like they're not hurting when it comes to that, but they're maybe not going to get as much love and credit as they should by the end of the year. So
yeah, it's unfortunate for them, but I think that Elden Ring will win some awards at least at the Game Awards. I mean, it's the Game Awards. Like Jeff Keighley feels ownership over Elden Ring, I feel like, because he is the one that ushered in the first trailer and whatnot. So I feel like there's going to be at least some thing about Elden Ring. Like, I don't think the pot's going to come on stage either, but I don't know, man. We also, I mean, who knows what the second half of this year looks like? Nintendo has been pretty quiet, except for like talking about Kirby that's coming out next month. But
yeah, they typically only show stuff that's like a couple months out. Like that last direct they did was like spring and summertime stuff. So
we'll see what happens like around E3 time. Even though there isn't technically going to be an E3, I still think we will get at least some new information about a bunch of stuff. So.
Yeah, I'm expecting the Starfield Bethesda thing this summer.
Yeah.
So
almost
that
certainly
will be exciting. And hopefully they do stick with the 11/11 release. But that's really like the only thing that I can think of that's like for sure been announced.
Juggernaut, yeah. Who knows about Breath of the Wild 2? I mean, last we heard it was maybe still going to come out this year, but who knows if that rumor was true. I believe if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out this year, I think it's going to be between that and Elden Ring because they're such similar genres.
Yeah, that's true. I still kind of hope that God of War makes it. I feel like the trailers they've shown have shown a lot. And so I feel like that can't be that much farther out, right? But
yeah, it's true.
It's hard to say. Ghostwire Tokyo, did that get a release date?
It didn't, but I don't think that's a contender. I mean, it does look cool, but I also think that it doesn't have the mass appeal that something like Starfield or Breath of the Wild does.
I'm just trying to think of what else is going to come out this year even.
It would be great if Silksong came out. I don't think that's going to... It might win Best Indie Game of the Year if it comes out, but it's not going to...
You don't think it'll be like a Hades type of a situation that like is an indie game that sort of ends up contending with the big players?
I have extreme high hopes for that game. My anticipation levels for that are off the charts.
All right. How about this then? Breath of the Wild 2 and Silksong come out on the same day. Which one are you playing first?
Oof. Man, it's got to be Breath of the Wild 2, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it has to be Breath of the Wild 2.
I mean, for me, for sure. That's
even though I'll buy them both on Switch.
Right. Who knows? Maybe Switch 2 is out by then.
That's true. I think it'll be a good second half of 2022. But
we just don't know what it's going to be.
And I think the first half isn't terrible. Yeah, I mean, the first half we had Horizon Zero Dawn, or Forbidden West, and Elden Ring, and this Kirby game has come out, which by all accounts seems great.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it, and this month alone, like February, as we're recording this, we've got 3 big like open world games if you also count Cyberpunk 2077 getting like the next gen release and that big 1.5. Like 1.5 update. Like that's 3 really big open world games that are considering last year there was a distinct lack of that genre, which like for me made game of the year really tough, because I usually look to that type of a game because I love big open world RPGs. And I think the only big open world RPG that I played last year was Biomutant, and I had some problems with that game. It was not a bad game. I just it did not rise to the level that it needed to be considered for like a top 10 list even. But so to have,
I don't think it's going to be hard to make a top 10 list in 2022.
Oh, for sure. It'll be difficult to decide what's going to win, I think, but you definitely have plenty of candidates.
I think there is a world where Starfield keeps its 11/11 date, Breath of the Wild 2 manages to come out this year, and Silksong manages to come out this year. And if that happens, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what my number 1 is going to be. I mean, my heart probably says Breath of the Wild is probably going to be number 1, but who knows? It's crazy how little we know about that game. We don't even know the name of it.
Yeah, I know. We're just calling it Breath of the Wild 2, even though that's not actually what it's going to be called.
But I mean, hopefully, I think it's likely that by this summer, we will at least know the name of it, if not a release date. And I would hope that the release date will be this year. But again, who knows?
I mean, I don't want to forget about Starfield either, because I have a lot of hype for that game. And
I do as well, yeah.
Like, I know Bethesda's got kind of a spotty track record of late, but just like the potential for what that game could be just like sets my mind on fire. So
yes, very true.
I'm very much anticipating that. And so I feel like if that comes out and is good, and then on top of that, you've got potentially the sequel to Breath of the Wild and God of War Ragnarok to play this fall. And then if you also throw in Silksong in there, I feel like it's going to be an insane like holiday season of games. And like, what do you do with that for a top 10 list?
It's hard. It'll be hard if that happens, but I would love it.
I mean, I would love it too. So I hope that is what happens, but for now, I guess if I had to give Game of the Year right now, having not even played Elden Ring yet, it would be Forbidden West, and Nobody Saves the World coming up like right behind it.
Oh yeah, I wonder if that'll be a contender for Indie Game of the Year.
That's another one that I don't want to forget about, because it came out so early, like mid-January. It's very easy to forget about games that came out that early in the year later on, but it was so good that I hope that it does get some credit like at the Game Awards later this year. So what else could be on the horizon? I'm trying to think. We know of a lot more games that are coming out. Nothing's coming to mind other than
everything else seems too far out. Like, they came out and said that weird, like, hey, we're making GTA 6. That's exciting, right? But who knows how far along that is. That's going to be massive, though, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Metroid Prime 4 is never going to come out, I feel. But that, I think, will be big if it ever does. I don't, like, it's crazy to me there hasn't been a super, I mean, I guess we had that re-release of Super Mario 3D World, or Land, with Bowser's Fury, but that's really the only Mario, like, we haven't gotten a mainline Mario game since Mario Odyssey.
That's true. I'm hoping that maybe this summer Nintendo will at least announce like Super Mario Odyssey 2, because wasn't there a rumor that was in development?
It should be. I mean, the Switch was so successful, for a lot of reasons, but also like year one, we got Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, that 1-2 punch of their two major properties, and they were both like amazing games. So it would be great, and this is probably not going to happen because there is no like official news about this. But it would be great if we got Breath of the Wild 2 and Odyssey 2 in the same year as that 1-2 punch again.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Who knows what they're doing with? I would hope that there is going to be an Odyssey 2 because I loved that new style where you have the hat and you can possess people. I think that adds a ton to the gameplay. But who knows what they're doing?
That's definitely an element that it feels like they could get more out of. So
yeah, 100%. It just like you want to collect them all in the Pokemon sense. Oh, what about Pokemon Arceus?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Pokemon's one of those series that's like beloved by a massive audience, but isn't like such a, big like critical success that it's something that will be up there for people. You know what I mean? Like people will give it like a solid 8 or 9 out of 10 and they will love it and they will put a ton of time into it. But when Game of the Year discussion comes up, they're giving it to like something else.
That's a good point. You know what else is on the horizon and does not have a release date? Is The Haunted Chocolatier.
Oh, yeah. I would love it if that game came out this year.
Who knows how far along that is, but I would imagine that's going to be something that hits really hard.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Hard to say when that's coming out. So some that we do know, Forspoken's coming out in May.
Yeah.
That's a game that will not probably contend, but it could be something that maybe surprises people with as good as it could be. And then Saints Row in August. Another one that I don't think will unseat any of the big players, but could make a top 10 list.
Yeah.
Let's see. The stuff that's not announced. See, Plague Tale Requiem is something I'm looking forward to. I don't think that would contend for anything. I'm looking forward to that Arc Raiders game, but who knows how far that's out.
Oh yeah, that looked interesting. There's
that Atomic Heart game.
Yeah, that's been in development forever.
Yeah, we've heard about that for a long time, and I feel like we've not seen a ton about it yet. Going down the list, Bayonetta 3. We don't know when that's coming out.
I don't think that's this year.
Nothing that's jumping out at me on this list.
I mean, there's heavyweights that, like we said, Starfield and maybe God of War 2 and Breath of the Wild 2. You couldn't really ask for more as far as like games that come out in 1 year. But it remains to be seen if any of them will actually come out this year.
It's true. Oh yeah, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That doesn't have a release date yet.
Yeah, that is also something I'm very much looking forward to. I feel like that's close. I could see that coming out this year.
Yeah, that's another one that may come out this year. It's one of those things like how does Nintendo approach their fall lineup especially if they can't get Breath of the Wild 2 out this year? Yeah. Like, what's their fall release?
Yeah. I mean, the market is so saturated with Switches, they a little bit can just like sit on their laurels and let a bunch of indie games come out on Switch for a while.
Yeah, and they burned through a bunch of their like their party style games last year because they had like Mario Golf and Mario Party, and
they have that Strikers one coming out.
Yeah, Strikers is coming out I think this summer at some point, so they will have that, I guess. So maybe if they can't get Breath of the Wild, maybe they are able to get Mario and Rabbids. Maybe they're able to get Splatoon 3 or something like that. Not something that's super exciting for either of us, but it would be a big seller for them, most likely. Yeah, there's nothing else that I can think of, just looking at this list, that's like lighting my mind on fire. Oh, you know what? They might do Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Let's hope it's Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I'm not super into Xenogears, I have to say. Like that was their one more thing of the last direct, and I was just like, man, this is not at all what I'm interested in.
Yeah, me neither. I don't need a 1,000-hour RPG that is a JRPG that will make me grind a lot more than I want to.
Yeah.
Did you see the DICE Awards at all? Did you see It Takes Two won DICE Awards Game of the Year?
That makes sense to me. I still am eager to play that game at some point because I've heard it's just like the most fun you can have with somebody else. So I think me and my girlfriend are eventually going to try to play it.
It was interesting to me. So the DICE Awards is like the nominees and awards are given by like industry peers as opposed to like fans voting on stuff the way like the Game Awards is. And Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart did a lot better
really
with the DICE Awards than it did with the Game Awards. So that was sort of interesting that because I thought it would do better at the Game Awards than it did. I feel like it got nominated for a fair amount of stuff, but like won basically nothing. So they DICE Awards gave it a little bit more credit. So, but It Takes Two won both. So I mean, I guess it deserves a lot of credit, even though it's not a game that I looked at and was like, "Ooh, I gotta play this."
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should wrap it up. Do you have any parting wisdom?
Zach, on New Year's Eve, do you ever get that like fake champagne, that like sparkling apple cider?
Nope.
Really? You've never gotten that before?
I mean, I've had like sparkling grape juice before.
Yeah.
But I don't usually get it for New Year's.
We used to do it as a kids because like you can't have champagne as kids, and so we would get those like Martinelli's fake champagnes that are just like apple juice that's like sparkling apple juice.
Sure.
I used to love those, and then I saw this week I was walking around the grocery store, and they have like little like 6-packs of miniature champagne bottles that are just those like Martinelli's like sparkling apple juice and grape juice. So I got one of those, and it was great. If you haven't ever had sparkling apple juice, it's something I highly recommend. And you can get a little. You don't have to commit to having a big giant champagne bottle of it. You can get a little 6-pack of mini champagne bottles.
That's pretty cool. Is there? I try to avoid sugar. Is there a lot of sugar in that?
Oh,
probably.
Yeah. So much.
So much. All right. Well,
it's probably worse for you than a soda, actually.
They don't have diet sparkling apple juice?
It's something, I mean, they probably do. It's not something I've explored, but I'm definitely going to go back to this section in the grocery store and see what other kinds of things they have there. So there's a big grocery store a little far away from where I live, but I think it's mostly a Wisconsin-branded store called the Woodman's. And it's open 24 hours, and it's giant. Like, their cheese section is just like, it's so big. And also their like drink section is also huge. And they have a lot of like weird little boutique brands. But I traveled up there and just got a bunch of weird stuff to try out, including they had you know those Biscoff cookies you get on airplanes sometimes?
No. I don't think I've ever been given a cookie on a flight before.
They have Biscoff Oreos that have cookie butter as the cream, and those are super, super good. And I have never seen them anywhere else, but they were very delicious.
You know what in terms of drinks, I do like is I've got my SodaStream. You can get those little bubbly things where you can put flavoring in it.
Oh, yeah, those Mio things?
I don't know. It's literally like bubbly brand stuff. Nice. So you can like put the actual like flavor in there, and you can put as much as you want. So if you're like, this doesn't have enough flavor, if you buy like the cans or whatever, you can just like throw a little bit more in there.
So I have a lot of with lunch every day. I usually have like an AHA or whatever the Target. I forget what the Target. Good and Gather. I like Good and Gather. They have a good like carbonation amount.
Really? I don't
that
think
I
I've
enjoy.
ever tried theirs before.
They have a, I think it's like a cucumber, or no, what is it? It's like hibiscus pear, I think is the flavor, and it's caffeinated as well. So like I have it with lunch sometimes, and it really gives me a pick-me-up after lunch.
Nice. Yeah, I like the SodaStream also allows you to like pick your carbonation level. So like if you want it a little lighter, you don't have to put as much in there, or if you want it to be like have a strong bite to it, you can just do a bunch, which is what I normally do.
I bet you would like that Good and Gather, because it is like extremely like it's probably the most. I've been experimenting with different ones, and so far it's the most carbonated that I've found.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't checked that aisle in Target before, but I do a lot of shopping at Target, so maybe I should check that out. But anyway,
yeah, that's my wisdom.
Go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search for Starside Cafe on all of those platforms and you'll find us. You can also go to starsidecafe.com. We've got some like written stuff, or we'll post like our video stuff or our podcast on there. So go check us out there. You can send us an email if you got questions or comments at starsidecafe@gmail.com, and maybe we will read them on the next show. And I will catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.